Welcome to day 13 of my Valentine series, and today we'll be painting a mid-size rose. So we'll start out with a simple outline and we'll use a kneaded eraser to erase any of the harsh pencil lines. I'm using Winsor Red Deep by Winsor & Newton, and I'm heavily diluting it and just doing a first wash for my rose. I'm still using the same color, I'm just using less water, and I'm going to accentuate the outline of the petals while using a damp brush to blend it out. Once I feel like the first layer of shadows is good, I will completely dry it before moving on to the stem and leaves. I'm using a diluted wash of undersea green, and I'm accentuating the outline, the middle of the leaf, and I'm starting on some veining. I'm going to use a glazing technique with multiple layers, so I'll blend this first wash out with a damp brush. For the leaves that have already dried, I'm going back and adding some more detail and layering with the same color that's on my brush. I'm continuing to layer using the same color and accentuating the outline and still going in with the veining and also blending everything out with my damp brush. The interesting thing about this undersea green and the Winsor Red Deep is that they're complementary colors of each other, so I'm able to use this same green shade as a darkening tool for my red rose. So all of the areas that I darkened, I'm going to go over that with my green color, and then I'll blend it out with a damp brush, and we'll see how this gives it a little bit more complexity when we go over it again with the red. I'm doing a few more touches of the green leaves, and then I'll dry it completely before going on to my next layer. And again, we're using that same undersea green, but this time a little bit less water and allowing for the color to be more concentrated. And we're going to deepen that shadow on the leaves, especially on one side. That way we can blend it out and it gives it a little bit more of dimension. That way it's not so flat looking. Now we can go back in with the Winsor Red Deep and cover the entire rosebud, and this will be another full layer on our glazing. Again, we are going to use a little bit less water and then take our undersea green and go back in with our shadows. With each layer, it will add a little bit more to the leaves and the stems, and you're going to start seeing it come to life here. We'll be doing the same thing with the rose, so using less water with the Winsor Red Deep and outlining and then blending it out with a damp brush. And once you're happy with that layer, then completely dry it before going in again with that same Winsor Red Deep and just do another big wash over the entire rose. And then we'll completely dry it before adding our next layer. So for this shadow color, I added a touch of moon glow to the Winsor Red Deep and it created this wine burgundy color, and this is what I'm using to deepen the shadows all along the inside of the petals and along the outline. I make sure to blend it out with a damp brush before I completely dry it, and then I'll go on with my next layer. Again, I'm using that same darkened shade, but this time I added even more of the moon glow, and I'm only touching on certain areas, little tiny portions of the shadow, and then I'll take a regular brush and just go over everything. It will kind of blend out that color and make it deeper. I'm trying to add some veining with that deeper color, but I'm still blending it out. I want it to be seen, but not as a harsh line. I'll lift some of the color off of the areas that I'll be adding highlight to later. I went back in with my mid-tone Winsor Red Deep shade and just blending out a little bit more where those darkened shadow shades are. And then again, I went in with my darkest shadow color with the most moon glow dropped into the Winsor Red Deep And I'm going back in and looking where the deep petal folds are and just trying to highlight certain areas with that darkened color. I went in again and added some more veining to that outside petal and blended it out with a damp brush. And I'm adding some more veining color to the leaves, and I'm blending everything out with a damp brush. And then I completely dry it once again before moving on to the cast shadow. So I used a mix of Moonglow and Payne's Gray, heavily diluted, and I like a well-defined cast shadow. So I'm just following along with where I put the leaves and the stems and just doing a light outline. After my first layer of the cast shadow, I completely dry it, and then I'm using a bleed proof white, and I'm just adding highlight to a few areas of the petals, but I'll still blend it out with a damp brush. And then once the cast shadow has had a time to dry a little bit, I went back in with that same tone and did an extra layer and had some more concentrated color towards the areas where the rose would be touching. And then once you're happy with your cast shadow, you're done. And this is how it looks in natural light. I hope you had fun painting with me, and I hope to see you in the next video.